Bain. Kim Bain.
Kim Baines.
Oh, must be President Win.
Anybody know Kim? I know Kim.
Good. You gonna be, yeah.
Kim is in the bathroom.
She what? Y'all know her? Who know Kim? Kim signed up and she left. She might be the lady that was sitting right here. When she left, she had to go pick up her daughter.
Yeah, sure.
We're gonna put her name back in there just in case she'll get a second chance. After I pull this one. Now. Latricia. Ooh, y'all, you wrote the tongue, girl. Baby. What's your last name?
Wes Daniels.
That don't look like none of that. Ain't you glad? Must be President to win. You won.
You're welcome.
All right. Tell him why he's gonna come on if he's coming.
Okay,
So we're gonna bring up our next guest, and you know who you are. Come on, girl. Miss Alyssa. Like you surprised. I just pulled your name out the hat. So introduce yourself and tell everybody.
My name is Alyssa R. Jones, and I'm the founder director of Survivors with Voices Foundation. So.
Do you want to stand? Do you prefer to stand and walk?
Yeah.
If you do, I'm gonna move over there, and so I can watch you, and then I'll just let you do your spiel, and then we'll come back and sit down for a few follow-up questions.
Okay, how's everybody doing? First of all, right, my name is Alyssa R. Jones, and today I'm going to share with you about the absent, I call it living the absent father life. Y'all with me? Living the absent father life. And so, at an early age, around 8 years old, my mother went through a divorce, okay? This man that was living in our home, which I call daddy. That was my daddy. That was my world. I was his baby girl. All of that. I mean, sometimes I would have to look at my mom because my mom was just so mean to me. I thought she adopted me, like for real. And so, just at 8 years old, they decide that they're going to get a divorce. My whole world crushed. So I'm going through the motions of my mother and my father getting divorced, right? And so at that time, my mother was going through financial instability. You know, she just became a single parent, and so now she's going to rent the basement of our home. I'm from Ohio. I know they don't have basements in Texas, but we do in Ohio. And so she rents out the basement of our home, and I always tell people she opened the door to a sheep in wolf clothing. That man came in and rented the basement, and he sexually abused me. I went through that for a good year and a half. So now I'm dealing with my mother and my father getting divorced. And now I'm subject to a man that I am scared to death of every day I come home from school. And so just going through all those changes, I lost sight of myself. Everything, my innocence was stolen from me. And so from that point, go through all of that, I opened up to a close friend in school, and she went and told me, you know how you're confiding in your friend, and you're like, you know, don't tell nobody, because I don't know if he's going to kill my mom. I don't know if he's going to kill me. But one of the things she said, which really broke my heart, because at that point in time, I tried to commit suicide. I felt like death was easier to deal with than the pain and agony that man put me through each day. And so with that, she said, Alyssa, I don't want you to go through what you're going through, and I'm going to speak up. And sometimes God will put people in your life that will speak up for you to save your life. And that's what she did for me. We're still friends today, and every day I tell her how much I appreciate her because she saved my life. And so going through all of those changes, my mom find out, and I get angry at my mom because she did nothing. Nothing. The man moved out the house, and it was like next day back to normal. My daughter didn't get raped. I didn't find out about it. Everything. It's just obsolete. It was like everything was just going on day by day by day. And I was so angry at my mom. I hated her for that. And so just going through life at the age of 13, I get hit with another stone. At this point, they're stones because they keep knocking me down. I got hit with another stone and found out that my dad I thought was my dad wasn't my dad. And so now I get introduced to this man. I look like him. I look like him a lot. But he keeps denying me. And so I don't know if y'all remember back in the day where they did the blood test, they didn't have like DNA. They had it, but it was the second option because it cost so much. So we went through and got a blood test, and that came back 99.9. He's like, nah. I ain't with it. Nah, she still ain't mine. I had a bisectomy, so she really ain't mine. And so let's go do a DNA. So I'm sitting through all of this, and I'm going through all of the emotions, because first I just dealt with being abused, my dad that I thought was my dad, and then find out he has 10 sons, 5 daughters, and I'm the 16th child. So I'm getting introduced to not only a man that's my father, but now I'm dealing with 10 men after being sexually abused. And yeah, y'all my brothers and all, but you know what? I just been violated, and I don't even want to get to know y'all like that. You know? And so just going through life and just dealing with all of that, I really lost myself. And when you lose yourself as a woman, you just go and fall into any man that says he loves you, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. At the age of 19, I started dating an older man and got pregnant with my first son. And so the absent father that I experienced and that life that I experienced led me into an older man. Because all at that point, I was looking for love. I was just looking for somebody to tell me they love me. And so all of that trickled in with not having a father in my life. Even it didn't matter that it happened at 8 years old. It didn't matter if it happened at 11. It didn't matter if it happened at 13. I went through teenage years, high school prom, no dad. You know? And so I'm just going through life, just trying to find my way. And so after getting pregnant with my first son, he broke my heart. And then I fall in love with another man that's a drug dealer. And I'm like, okay, I can change it. Right? We can do that, right? Women, they got an S on their chest. We're going to change him. I'm going to make him into this scholar, and I'm going to get him a job. I was the one filling out the job applications, right? I'm making him look good, because that's what we do as women. And so I did that, got married, and it was like not really a marriage, because I turned into his mother, because I'm like, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, I'm pregnant with your child, I'm on my second child, and you're going to do what I say, basically. Men, I know y'all dealt with those women before, but all I say is that I ended up going through a divorce myself, but I stayed in it longer than what I should have. And the reason I stayed is because I didn't want my children to be in an absent father situation like I was. So I took a lot of beatings. I took a lot of dealing with anything that I could, cheating with women, him out in the streets, stealing my car, and being out all night. And so what I do, go starting to get in my car so you don't take mine no more, so I can get my kids back and forth to school and get myself back and forth to work. But as women, when we don't think about that, that's what we do. And so I went through all of those changes because my father was supposed to be the first man to tell me that I was beautiful. He was supposed to be the first man to tell me that he loved me. And so I went looking for love. And my mother, I'm still at this point trying to make her pay. I'm trying to make her pay for all the things that went wrong in my life. I'm trying to make her pay for my dad being gone. I'm trying to make her pay for finding out that the dad that I thought was my dad wasn't my dad. I'm trying to make her pay for my abuse. And essentially, I never really understood it, but I just wanted her to go back to the past and save me. You know, a lot of times you hold grudges and you just want people to go back and undo what they did. But I had to realize I had to get to a point, I had to let it go. I had to let it go. It is what it is. And so then you get people out there that's trying to talk about you and make up your life story. And so I said, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put it in all in a book. And so I wrote the book, The Stones That Built Me Strong. And in that book, I talk about, you know, everything that I told y'all, I'll get into a little bit more detail. But the biggest thing is the lessons I got out of life. One of the things I learned about having an absent father life is I had to embrace God as Father. A lot of times we go through life and we're raising children, and I'm looking at my children and I'm like, okay, now I'm going through a divorce and I'm making a lot of the mistakes and steps that my mother made. But now at this point, I am getting a divorce. I'm looking at my 3 children looking at me, and now they are starting their journey of living an absent father life. And then I had to understand that, okay, God is going to be the center of it all, and I had to get close to him. I had to find myself. I had to embrace God as Father and understand that all this time I was looking for a void in my life. I was looking for somebody to be my father. Me and I'm out there with calling them daddy, and God was there all the time. And so God blessed me with a man in my life now. I'm married again, and this husband has stepped in and loved all of my children. None of my children are his, and he loves them. And I'm going to be honest with you, as I was listening to the other speakers speak, I was that angry, upset baby mama when I went through my divorce. I used the kids and kept them from him because, as you know, hurt people hurt people. And I used my children that way. But I'm going to tell you what God does. God placed my husband now in my life with a baby mama situation. And so I was looking at her and I'm seeing me. I'm seeing how I was with my ex-husband and how she did my husband now. And so he put that mirror in my face. And I'm asking my husband, did I really act like that? Like, did I really do the kids like that? And because I look at my stepdaughter and I see how hurt she is because she's torn between my husband and her mom because she loves her mom so much and she doesn't want to hurt her mom's feelings. And I think we just got the call the other day that she wants to come and live with us in Texas. Oh my God, all hell broke loose up there. And so we're going back to Ohio in February to kind of deal with that situation. But I have 2 sons. 2 sons. And it's going to get emotional for me real quick. Because my baby boy is struggling without having his father in his life. And I blame myself. Because I was the one doing those roadblocks. Today, I had to send my son to military school. So while I'm here, my husband drove to Austin to drop him off. And so I was with him last night shopping for some things, and we were talking. But one of the things that breaks my heart is he has to go through this journey. And I blame myself. But one of the things I'm determined is that my son would not end up like his father or any other man out there choosing a life of drugs, not with an education. And at first I was so angry about his behavior, some of the things that he was doing. My first thought was, I'm sending you to your daddy. I know y'all ladies have done that before. Like, you know what? I'm tired of dealing with it. I'm sending you to your daddy. Yeah. And I had to really sit back and think about that thing. Is sending him to his dad the answer when I know that he sells drugs? When I know that there's a lot of killings in Ohio, when I know that he's not going to protect him like I do. And so I went out looking for programs I could put him in, and that's the decision that we made. And I'm so thankful for my husband because he's standing with me every step of the way. Any other man with me would have been like, nah, baby, your kids is bad. I'm good. Deuces. So, you know, you just kind of got to look at it from all angles. I mean, I've been in all of those shoes. I've been in the shoes of dealing with the absent father life. I've been in the shoes of having, to deal with that situation. And I've been in the shoes of, with my kids and just really having to deal with that situation. And so I'm going to say to you, sometimes you cannot prevent the absent father situation, but you just make the best situation out of it and just always remember, embrace God as Father, because He will walk you through every situation. I always tell people I'm still standing strong, because everything that happened in my life, every stone that hit me was supposed to destroy me and kill me, but it didn't. I'm still here, and so are you.
being so transparent.
Oh, yes.
So that's not
The truth will set you free.
One thing that I did want to talk about is how did you eventually, I know you said the mirror was placed in front of you with the blended family, because that's something that we talked about in my research also, is people saying how it was hard for them to see their dad move on and remarry and then have a family. And so then the kids that are there, they have a life that they don't have. Like their dad is Superman for their sisters, their other siblings, but that's not the dad that they know, even though that's the same person. And so then you're kind of on the flip side of it. And just how did you really work through it?
Actually born
Exactly. And then so your husband is there in the house with you and your kids who are not his kids, but then he has a home somewhere else with kids. And so how do you all work through that and navigate and try to make everybody happy?
Well, I think the blessing in that is Nadia is 16 now. And so my husband has a direct contact with her. But there was a period in time where we couldn't call the baby mama and get, through Nadia from that. So now that there's a direct contact and she's kind of out the way, but she isn't, it's actually been a lot better doing it that way. But just thinking about the situation where there's little kids involved, even in my situation with my ex-husband, I bit my tongue a lot. And I just dealt with it, and I thought about my kids, but at the same time, in my mind, I'm like, ooh, you hurt me. So you just kind of have to, that was the immature me, and so you just got to get to that level in your thinking.
Okay, and I don't know if you all have noticed this, but there's a common theme that everybody who has spoke about, and it was a decision that they made within their self, and the academic term is called internal locus of control. It is at some point that you realize that you are able to control what you can control.
Yes.
And for yourself. And so getting to that place for you, how is life different for you now as opposed when you were blaming?
I'm so at peace. I really am. And even with the situation, with my situation and blaming my mom, I lost my mom in 2013. But I was able to communicate to her how I felt. And one of the things that was so transparent to me is that I really understood why my mom acted the way that she acted. She didn't know how to react to my abuse. She didn't know how to react. And I'm actually working on another book. And I did a lot of research on my mom's story. And my mom's story is she was, her mother died at 12. She was sexually abused by her brother, and then came to Ohio and got sexually abused by her sister's husband. And so my mother herself, when we talk about the men and the divorce, she was looking for love. She didn't know how to love. And so when the abuse happened to me, she didn't know how to react. All she knew was to sweep it under the rug. And so I kind of had a breakdown moment because I blamed her for so many years. I was angry and trying to make her pay for so many years and didn't understand. My mother had her own story. And people can only give you what they know, And so it was just really, really a transparent moment for me. And God rest her soul that she's gone. But at the same time, that's why I work so hard in the foundation that I have to understand the healing part and the forgiveness part, because you have to move on. You'll stay stagnant in your past, and you can't help anybody else in the future because you're stuck in the past.
I know, right? So then, woo. That's another term that everybody has used, is you have to move on. And I think sometimes we get stuck in our own way.
Yeah.
We are so egocentric in that our life is the only one that really matters. And in our story, don't you know what I'm going through?
Right.
And so then to realize and put it out there for everyone else. So then with your husband, and his relationship with his daughter, and then now you all have the decision to make whether to bring her in or allow her, is that your decision or her mom?
Well, can I be honest with y'all for a second? It was hard for me to get close to my daughter. It was very hard because her mother was in her ear and talking about me and making me look bad. So I built that wall, okay? What's Alyssa's doing and what her and your dad doing and, stuff like that. And so I built a wall. against my daughter because I'm like, you're not about to run nothing back to her. You're not about to run my business back to her. But I had to come to realization that she was just a puppet. She was just a puppet for the baby mama who was hurting. And so I made a conscious decision to do a better relationship. So about 3 years ago when she came for the summer, I spent the most time I could with her, let her know that I love her. And it's so funny because she acts totally different around me than when she's around her mom. But I just really had to make the decision to make my own relationship with her outside of my husband because she needed to know that I loved her just as much as my husband loves my kids. And I had to make that decision because without it, it caused a lot of friction with my husband, a lot of friction in my home. And my thing is I had to sit back and say, how can I allow him to do everything for my kids and love my kids, and I can't even open my heart to his daughter? I had to really check myself. I had to check myself because I was seeing a product of my husband's past. And if you love a man, you gotta accept him and his past. That means kids, baby mama, all of that. So I'm gonna tell y'all, I even took it a step further. I had to get in likes with her. Knowing she didn't like me, I picked up, hey Kim, how you doing, girl? But I had to understand because at a point in time we were arguing, we was fighting, and that's all our kids seen. And so I had to make a decision. You know what? If I got a grin and bear, I'm gonna smile on your face and let you know it's not phasing me. Have y'all women ever heard, don't let another woman see you sweat? That's what I had to do. And so I will pick up the phone when we go get Nadia. I say, hey girl, how you doing? Make her speak to me. She didn't want to speak, but she had to speak to me because what example are you setting for your daughter if you're not gonna even speak to me? You have to deal with it.
Help somebody, baby.
Yeah, you got to deal with it.
So then now thinking about your boys and the decision you made for one son.
Not one, but two. My oldest son went through the program.
Okay.
And he was actually being a follower with the wrong crowd. So I said, you know what? And the program is called Texas Challenge Academy. Anybody that have a boy that's struggling or anything, I suggest them going. But my son went. Now he's working consistently, going to school, and about to go into the Air Force. I couldn't have asked for a better prayer for that, to see that his life changes. So with my middle son, I made the same decision, but his behavior is a little bit different. He's stealing, and I'm like, I see, the little things getting stolen, and it's been going on for quite some time, and then, the people's cell phones coming up missing. I said, Lord, I got to do something for it. He's still a cop. And so I just made that decision, and I know one of the things he told me when I told him he was going to the program, I said, well, what is it? He said, I need attention. I miss my dad. I know that, Robin is here, and he calls him dad, but he was like, he cried, he said, why don't he want me? And my heart just broke, and he was like, Mom, I know you're there, I know you love me, but what did I do? Why don't you want me? And I had to tell him, it's not you. This has to do with your dad and what he goes through, but it is not you. And so when your kid is looking at you in your face and you got to answer them tough, hard questions, it's just something that is resonating in your heart. Like you go back to your past and you say, could I do something different? Could I have done something differently? Well, maybe I should have stayed in that marriage. But at the end of the day, I wasn't happy. And so you got to really get the question yourself, did I make the best decision?
Any final words that you would like to share with anybody, just to close the statement? I know we're going to bring you back and they'll have opportunity to ask questions, but just any lasting thoughts that you want to leave right now?
Okay, y'all know my story. But seriously, just when you think about the children and the absent fathers and the things that kids are going through these days, you really have to look into yourself and really self-evaluate yourself and then go to them and deal with that and deal with them or whatever they're going through. Single moms, it's hard. I've been there, I've done it, but sometimes we have to be the bigger person. I know all of us has heard that before, being the bigger person, turning the other cheek. And in a lot of situations in my past, I wish I did that. But a lot of times, the best thing I could have did was encouraging my kids to embrace God as Father. And y'all hear me say that a lot, but I promise you, once my kids did that and they really talked to God, I've heard my kids talk to God. Even with my son, with what he's going through, he says, Mom, I want to change. I'm talking to God. I'm talking to my Father. I want them to understand that above anybody else, if they don't have their dad in their life, God is always going to be there.
Amen.
Just one thing that she did mention with that one conversation with her son, and he was saying, you know, why doesn't he want me? That was something that I found in some of my research as well. And one thing that you would be surprised to know, or maybe not so surprised, is that kids whose dad still living and right there and chooses not to participate, I recommend almost that they go through some kind of a grief counseling, because it's hard to accept that rejection that he lives around the corner or across the street or down the way. Or I knew someone where her daughter would go to visit her grandma, his mom, and he lived there with his mom, but she still never saw him. And it's like, he knows that I'm coming over here. Why doesn't he want to spend time with me? Why doesn't he want to get to know me? And in my study, I had one male whose dad had died, and he was better adjusted to his dad not being there because he was dead, as opposed to the kid whose dad is alive and just choosing for whatever reason not to be there. So if you have any of those, watch for those signs in your kids, and maybe see about some kind of a grief counseling where they could talk those feelings out and those emotions, because that is something that they deal with. Because it's just a level of rejection that's different. So then, y'all know we skipping the break, right? Tandra, when you find out if she has another drawing, okay, we'll see if she has another drawing. Y'all know must be present to win. Is there another drawing?
Oh, got an announcement.
Go ahead.
I just met him. I met him by accident. He's here for another event with Jack and Jill.
Gabriel, I'm Michelle.
Go ahead and tell all adults who know about the Jack and Jill program.
Well, basically Jack and Jill is like sort of like a mother's society kind of thing, but it deals with the teens more focused on. So I'm an officer on there. I'm the teen editor, the Greater Channel chapter. There's 30 to 50 chapters around the world that do this. So that's pretty much.
What kind of activities do you do in your program?
We do charity events. Then we go to this weekly, like it's like an annual teen conference where basically like we compete against other chapters. We have our teen skit that we do against other chapters. So it's pretty fun. Giving back to the world.
What's the last community event you did?
We did a diabetes walk.
Okay.
Y'all have a membership drive coming up anytime soon?
I don't think so. I have to ask the president of the chapter.
The mom.
Yeah, the mom.
Okay, can you do me a favor while you're still here? Will you pick a name out of this? This is for a gift card to, what's that?
Olive Garden.
Olive Garden. Ooh, all right.
Brandon Pete.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
He learned he must be present to me. He told me you weren't here in All right, and then our next speaker is. Oh, that was it. Oh, okay. Yeah. How are you doing? I should have a seat. Jeez, I've learned something. I should come over here.
If with pleasure you're viewing any work a man is doing, if you like them or you love them, tell them now. Don't withhold your approbation until the parson makes oration and he lies with snowy lilies on his brow. For no matter how you shout it, he won't really care about it. He won't know the many teardrops you have shed. So if you think some praise is due him, now is the time to slip it to him, for he cannot read his tombstone when he's dead. More than fame and more than money is the comment kind and sunny and the hearty, warm approval and friendly. For it gives to life a savor. It makes you stronger. It makes you braver. It gives you heart and spirit to the end, so it will deserve some praise bestowed. If you like them, let them know it. Let the words of true encouragement be said. Don't wait until life is over and they're underneath the clover, for they cannot read their tombstone when they're dead. That being said, I want to applaud Maud and the team for putting this together today. And certainly to everyone that has spoken, everyone that will share, it's been a pleasure and privilege to sit and peer into the corridors of your hearts, to understand why you do what you do and why you are where you are. I've been on my computer the whole morning preparing for videos for church tonight and tomorrow, but I've totally been fully engaged. I'm a filmmaker, graduated from Texas University in 2012, and I quit my full-time job 6 months ago.
All right.
And now,
All right.
yeah, you can clap now. I wasn't clapping in August, but you can clap now. I'm also an assistant coach on the TSU debate team. I was a member of the TSU debate team. I traveled the world on TSU Dive, Budapest, Hungary, Berlin, Dubai, Africa, weeks and months at a time, seeing the whole of civilization. I was always a people person. I grew up here in Houston, Lakers home, graduated from Eisenhower High School. Realized that everyone is a product of their story. Everyone is a sum total of what they've been through. And if you don't mind, I just want to jump right in and get all up in your business. We've heard some great things, and I heard the sniffles and I saw the tears. But if you leave this place without any self-evaluation, you've totally missed the reason you came this thing. And it's not just for the children, but each and every one of us, even as adults, has to step back and look at ourselves in a big scale and see the whole picture. Sometimes we dwell too much on small instances in our lives, and we forget to pat ourselves on the back for not blowing our own brains out, and not cursing that person out, and not winding up in jail when you had every right to be as crazy as you wanted to be. So the fact that you're here is proof positive that your sanity is God sent. It's not up to you, because if you had your own way, they'd know how you really feel. But you haven't parted your lips to tell them everything. You slipped a couple of text messages out and you put a couple things on Facebook, but they don't really know how you really feel. And that's proof that you have control. It's proof that you realize that your being here says that there's something else left for me to do in this life. So many times if we were to look at where our friends are and our colleagues and our family members, we realize that we put ourselves in a box before we even got started. Because daddy wasn't there, or mama never went to college, or so-and-so never got that degree, so how can I start up a business? And here we are putting ourselves in boxes and confining ourselves to holes and blaming somebody else for where we land. The absent father is nothing new. It goes all the way back to Scripture. Please don't be alarmed by the fact that daddy wasn't there or daddy hasn't been there. The truth of the matter, this goes all the way back to Abraham. Abraham was there with a promise from God. You'll have a son with your wife Sarah. And he says to Sarah, we're going to have a son. Sarah laughs. She says, no, go sleep with the man. I'm too old. He goes with Hagar. They have a son, Ishmael. Sarah eventually has a son named Isaac. Ishmael is outside in the yard teasing Isaac, and Sarah says to him, get them out of my house. And there we find the first moment of father was divided from his son. It's not new. And he walks with Ishmael. The Bible says he woke up a great while before day, and he walks with his son and takes him to the middle of a desert. That's what abandonment looks like.
Yeah.
It's not new. It's not you. It's not this century. It's not America. It's not black folk. It's not new. Jesus was on the cross, and he says, Father, why have you forsaken me? The man with 2 sons is standing there, and his son says, give me what's mine. He gives it to him. The son runs off. That's abandonment. It doesn't look like abandonment because daddy didn't leave, but here we have son feeling entitled. It's not just people that didn't have daddy growing up that have issues. Some people had daddy in the house and still dealt with abandonment. You know those people. You know those people that had married parents and still act like they were abandoned. But it's not new. I just want to remind you that it goes all the way back to almost the beginning of humanity. Abandonment for the sake of self-sufficiency and self-preservation is an instinctive thing. But at the root of this conversation today is 2 things: forgiveness and fear. Being afraid to not have daddy there, and then realizing I grew up without daddy there, and still harboring the emotions like life owes you something. I think of a poem as I'm standing here. I read it because I haven't had to recite it in a while. It was Booker T. Washington's favorite poem, and at one point at Tuskegee University, it was a rite of passage. You had to memorize it in order to be to declare your major or graduate. The poem is called Equipment. The poem says, "Figure it out for yourself, my lad. You've all the greatest of men have had. 2 arms, 2 hands, 2 legs, 2 eyes, and a brain to use if you would be wise. With this equipment they all began. So start for the top and say, I can. Courage must come from the soul within. The man must furnish the will to win. So figure it out for yourself, my lad. You were born with all that the great men have had. With your equipment they all began. Get hold of yourself and say, I can." Every person that's ever succeeded in life, you have the exact same equipment they began with. Do not fool yourself into thinking that there is a prerequisite of your genealogy or your family tree of what it takes to get to the top. There's no prerequisite. For if there were a prerequisite, there are a list of people that are household names whose names we would not know. Samuel L. Jackson, Eddie Murphy, Mariah Carey, Tupac, Biggie, P. Diddy, Barack Obama. If, in fact, perfect genealogy was needed, those people would not be household names. Bill Clinton wouldn't be a household name growing up without a father. You can make millions without daddy. You can make millions with daddy. You have all the greatest of men have had. And what we really have to realize, especially in this season, is that every resource that we need, it's all inside. J.C. Penney stole it from us. It's all inside. It's in us. It's in you. You have it inside of you. It's not in the person to your left or to your right or your banker or your professor. It's not in your boss. It's not in your degree. You have it inside of you, the will to win. Every situation that we ever face in life can be solved with the will to win. And the funny thing about, I've heard divorce mentioned a couple of times today. The funny thing about divorce is it happens when 2 people feel like their will or their motive is the most important at the exact same time. Now, I'm not saying that excuses any person from abuse, whether it's physical or mental or emotional or anything like that. But at the end of the day, it's the lack of the ability to compromise, because I feel like I'm entitled to feel the way I feel, and you feel like you're entitled to feel the way you feel, and now we come to a point where we can't agree anymore, so we'd rather part ways. I want to say something. It's not always popular, but I say it a lot. A lot of times when we think about marriage and think about children in marriage, the children become the priority. Mm-hmm. That's the issue there.
Yeah.
You marry the person. You never make a vow to a child. Jesus taught.
Amen.
You never make a vow to a child. You have a child. You can put a child for adoption. That child can be aborted. It can die. You don't make a vow to a child.
That's it.
But you walk down an aisle and you make a vow to a person.
Yeah.
To have and to hold, sickness and health, till death do us part, richer and poor. You make a vow to a person, a covenant that God respects, and you say that out loud to someone that can understand it. If you were to make a vow to a child, when Mufasa took Simba to the top of Pride Rock and said, everything the light touches is yours, Simba did not understand it, because he turned around and said, I want to be a mighty king. So enemies beware, I'm going to be the main event. So you might as well stop and stare. He didn't know that in order for him to be king, Daddy had to die. He couldn't comprehend what he was asking for. So you don't make promises to children like that. But you make promises to an adult. And you say, I'll be with you. I'm exclusively, my body, my money, my home is yours. And vice versa. Now, upon the violations of those things are where the matter gets in. But we throw a child into the mix, and things get real murky and real messy real fast. Because we feel like it's our entire responsibility to make sure that child has a perfect life. And we forsake the covenant of the marriage, because you're not the type of father I thought you'd be. You're not the type of mother I thought you'd be. My child, my son, my daughter needs a better father figure, needs a better mother figure. How dare you come home drunk? How dare you come home smelling like smoke? Where you been all night? And then you talk to your spouse in front of your child like that and think that they won't duplicate that again when they decide to fall in love for themselves.
Yes. You better say it.
And so we're in here cursed generationally, based on what we looked up to as an example. And we think that we're doing everybody a favor by trying to figure it out for ourselves. And the truth of the matter is, we duplicate what we see. With the sum total of our experience, our stories, are what we become. The funny thing about children, I've learned, I don't have any children. I'm in my first year of marriage. We don't have to. Thank you so much. God bless you. We're celebrating a year. Yeah, we are getting ready, but just not right now. We got a puppy a couple months ago. That's cool. That works. We like traveling. We like up and leaving. I don't know. I ain't got time for you to be pregnant. You can't fly. No. Not right now. I want it. I do. I want 4 of them. I can't wait. But I can wait right now. But the thing about our children, and what I've noticed about children, is they absorb everything. They take it all in. I was with a friend of mine on New Year's Day at a party, and their child might be three years old, and she says to her husband, he didn't start acting like that until so-and-so started going to the daycare. And I was like, how can you notice that your 3-year-old changed once somebody else started going to the daycare? Well, we were at home, we told him to go to bed, and he said, no, mommy. We never taught him how to say that, but the little friend at daycare says those things. And I was like, whoa. They really are sponges. Not only that, it's not only what they hear and see, they sense things. That's why when Mary went to Martha, while their stomachs both leapt, because the babies sense things that we don't sense. They can sense danger before we sense it. You've ever noticed if a child steps back when they're meeting a stranger, they realize something about that person that maybe their parent doesn't realize? I truly believe that children are far more spiritual than we are, especially at the age of innocence, and they have a deeper spirit of discernment. They can discern, just like a dog knows when it's about to rain. They can discern good people. Just like you could tell your mother, that man was touching me, and she not believe it. The truth is, the kids absorb it all, your energy, what we put out, what we let come in, and then they become these adults, and we sit in these rooms, and we have these conversations, feeling like we landed where we land because somebody wasn't there, because somebody didn't pat us on the back, because somebody didn't say good job. Somebody had an issue with me being on the panel today. I grew up with both parents. My parents are celebrating 29 years of marriage in May. I have a sister. She's finishing her degree in journalism, master's degree in journalism from U of H. Never been in jail. We don't have any kids. People said maybe I'm not qualified to speak on something like this. I told God a long time ago, anytime somebody gives me a stage, I'm opening my mouth.
Yes,
I feel like it's too many of us that have the gift of gab and don't like to use it.
Yeah.
And what I noticed was that the white folks pay good money.
Yes.
And I decided a long time ago
Yes.
that I was going to talk whenever I could
Yes.
and collect a check. Just not today. God bless you. but so people had an issue, and the thing is, you never know what it takes for someone to be who they are.
Yeah.
Sure, I grew up with both my parents. I was not athletic, so I never had the issue with, oh my God, my daddy wouldn't have my games. I played video games. I used to get in trouble for taking his computer apart while he was at work. I was the nerd. But I did have a dichotomy. I was called to preach at a very young age. Preached my first sermon when I was 16 years old. My dad is a Christian, been a deacon all my life, but he's never been called. And I found myself in a place where I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. I have a biological father and I have no spiritual covering. My dad taught me how to pray. He showed us how to read scripture every night before bed. My sister, my mom, and I, and my dad on our knees praying. I hated it. And to this day, every morning I wake up, me and my wife pray. When we go to bed, we're praying. And I tell other young couples that we're in the position to mentor now. Like if your day doesn't start with prayer, like don't be confused when it goes haywire. Don't, I'm not saying think about reading the verse of the day. I'm saying open that app and ask God to speak to you through something.
Yes.
Every day. I swear. If we miss it, we know it because by 9 o'clock we're arguing. Text back and forth. You forgot to take trash out. No, if you removed your card, then I could. Whoa. We forgot to pray. Hello. Give me 3 minutes. In the name of Jesus, we come. Seriously. But I had an issue with my dad. I felt like he could not fulfill this space I wanted to have filled in my life. Because every pastor I knew would reject me because I was young and I had this gift and they felt like, oh, you want my church. And I'm like, no, I don't. I just want somebody to teach me. How do you preach a funeral? What do you say when somebody dies in a hospital? Like, what do you do when somebody's son goes to jail at 2 a.m. in the morning? And take me with you. I want to know what to do. Yeah. And everybody was saying, no, you're too young. No, you're 17. You're 20. No, never mind. Go to school. You'll be fine. And I was looking for love. Had a dad at home looking for love in all the wrong places. The same thing I'm talking about, abandoning what was already at home. My dad's a great man, good guy, love him to death. And I was looking for someone to just take me and just accept me for who I am. And I had it all along. And here I am abandoning what gave life to me. We were never not friends, we were never cool. Or no, never not cool. I mean, there was one time I was on the debate team, we went to Germany, and I turned my cell phone on, and the bill was $1,300. He will not forgive me for that. One day I still have the cell phone bill that's in my Dropbox. I keep it, because one day I'm going to just staple a $1,300 check to it and give it to him. But I found myself feeling lonely and unaccepted. To myself. They never told me I was unacceptable. They were at every play, they were at every sermon, they still show up. If I would have told them about this, they'd be here. And there I was, looking for something, not realizing that I was becoming the sum total of every experience. I've been a youth pastor before, been a media director before, I've served under 5 or 6 different pastors, and I realize now, even in my speaking style, I'm a sum total of all of them. Including Dr. Freeman. I'm a sum total of everything. Every preacher I listen to, everybody I digest, every note I take, I see mannerisms that come out. And I'm like, dang, T.D. Jakes does that. Oh, Noel Jones does that. And when I write films, I'm like, dang, that's what Spike Lee did in that movie. And then, oh, that's what Samuel L. Jackson's character did. And I realized we all are the sum circumference of the pool we swim in. Period. I'll leave you with this thought, or bring Michelle up. The book of Joel, 3 and 10. I don't even care if y'all don't like scripture. I didn't even ask. The book of Joel, the 3rd chapter, the 10th verse. After in the 2nd chapter, he says, "And in that day I'll pour out my spirit upon all flesh. And your sons and daughters shall prophesy, and your young men will see visions, your old men will see dreams." In the 3rd chapter, God is talking about this same group of people preparing for war before that outpouring happens, before the deluge of a new spirit happens. He says, before this, there's a war that's going to go on. He says to them, chapter 3, verse 10, he says, "Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong." Real random passage of scripture, but it shows me 2 things. First of all, it shows me resources. Everything you need in this season to go where you're going, and I'm parting just from the topic of the discussion to remind those of you that are talking about starting a business or going back to school or revamping this idea, you have the resources. He didn't say go buy swords. He said take what you were using to plow with and break it up.
Yeah.
And sharpen it into a sword. Take the pruning hook and make it a spear. You already have it. He asked Moses in the book of Exodus, in the 14th chapter at the Red Sea. Moses says, "How will we get across this sea?" And God says, "Moses, what's in your hand?" So many times we forfeit the fight because we're waiting on a weapon. And we already have the resources within our possession. That's number 1. Number 2, it says, "Let the weak say, I am strong." It did not say, "Let the strong say, I am strong," or that the weak say, "I am weak." It said, "Lie." It said, "Let the weak say, I'm strong." You may not be whole, you may not be complete, but if you think yourself that, if you think yourself at peace, if you think yourself happy, if you think yourself wealthy, you'll be that. How? You have all the greatest of men have had. 2 hands, 2 eyes, 2 ears. It's up to you to use the equipment to get where you want to get in life. And never hold anyone hostage in the hollows of your heart because they weren't there. Because at the end of the day, when you get where you're going, you ain't talking about sharing money with them anyway. God bless y'all. You want to have a couple of